Hi friends, it's Belinda here from Be Making Joy, and welcome to my channel. This is episode 6 of What Brings Me Joy. This is where I come to you every second week from my home here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, to share my knitting projects and some sneak peeks at what I'm designing and a little bit about my life. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, I'm glad to have you back. Today is Tuesday, April the 11th, and this recording should be ready for your viewing tomorrow, so happy WIP Wednesday. In this episode, I have 3 finished objects to show you, lots of progress on a couple of other WIPs, and yes, more yarn. But first, let's talk about the obvious big news. If you're a returning viewer, you probably noticed right away that my hair had been chopped off. Where did it go? Well, here it is. I'm sending it away, donating it to Wigs for Kids. I found the mailing address on the Canadian Cancer Society website, which I will link to down below. If you're not in Canada, just Google donate hair and whatever region you're in or country you're in. That's how I found this. I Googled donate hair Calgary and I got a link to the Canadian Cancer Society website. So that's ready to mail off. And I have some pictures that I will show you of the process. I've done this before in the past years ago, and I have been planning this for a couple of months now, doing this, but the hair needs to be clean, completely dry, and braided, and then cut off. So because my hair takes like 2 hours to dry, because I can't really use a blow dryer because putting my hands up above my head for too long makes me dizzy. So I let my hair naturally dry. So to do this, I needed like a whole day free to shower, wash my hair, dry it, braid it, and all that. So Friday I did it. And I'll show you the pictures. First, I braided my hair up in the 2 little braids. I went with 2 braids instead of 1 because I have thick hair, which makes it really hard to brush out, especially when you get tired with your arms up in the air and you can't reach the back in the middle. So I braided. I went into the hairdressers. I said, cut the braids off and make a bob or a pixie cut with what's left. And they understood me perfectly. Of course, they went on about how much long hair I had, but it was great that I was donating it and all. So I am happy with the results. I feel so much lighter. I sleep better. It's really different taking a shower with the water massaging your back and your neck. Really fun. Yeah. But I do need to get a new hairbrush because my paddle brush just isn't cutting it. I think I need a round brush so I can curl it under a little more. You know, it won't take any time at all for it to grow again. I can certainly pin it back with a headband or a barrette. Now, it still almost reaches for a clip. So it won't be very long before it grows again. So you can watch the progress. Anyway, the first finished object I have to talk about, obviously, is what I'm wearing. The Love Note sweater from Tin Can Knits. It still hasn't been blocked because I just keep wearing it. As soon as I finish knitting it, I put it on and I keep wearing it. I started this as a knit along with a few people in connection with Megan from Pearl Passion. So we've been Zooming and chatting, Zoom chat, and sharing our thoughts. I went with long sleeves because it's a warmer yarn that I used, as did about half of our group, I think. And I was worried about whether it was going to be too short. I did the waist length rather than the crop length. And I think it does work quite nicely with jeans. I think I'm going to like it. I've told you all the details before along the way. And if you want to see the progress throughout, you can go back to previous episodes. I do put chapter tags in my episode, in my show notes, so you'll see along the bottom of the screen the chapter breaks. So if you wanted to go back and skip to just one particular project and watch its progress from episode to episode, you could do that. Or if there's a project you're tired of me droning on about, you can just skip ahead. I hope you don't do that, but yeah. Anyway, I need to catch my breath. I don't know if you can see this, but where we join to the provisional cast on to make the collar part, instead of weaving in those ends, I tied them in a knot and a bow so that I can quickly tell which is the front, which is the back, because it does have short row shaping to make it a little longer in the back and lift up the back so you're not choking here. We did question why do a provisional cast on, why not just cast on at the collar and knit it first. And now that it's done, I think this is much more comfortable. There's no ridge where you're picking up stitches along a cast on edge here, and this is a soft cast off edge rather than a cast on edge. So I think that makes it much more comfortable. So I did quite enjoy that. I enjoyed the results. Okay, finished object number 2. If you watched my last episode through all the way to the end past where I was saying like, subscribe, and go find some joy, I came back and told you that I found my sock monkey project. And the pieces were all knit. It just needed to be assembled. So I hemmed and hawed about whether I was going to toss it or assemble it. And I got sentimental about the dog hair on some of the pieces. So the dog hair was from our dog Frodo, who's been gone for 7 years now. So I got sentimental and decided to finish him. Although I think he looks a little more like Mr. Bean's bear with a tail than a monkey. But cute, yummy looking banana. And while I was assembling him, my daughter says, "I remember that monkey. You made him before." And I thought, no, I didn't make him before. Maybe you're remembering this guy when I was knitting him. And she, nope, you made one before. A couple of hours later, she threw this guy at me. He had been hiding in a bin in the bottom of a bin in her bedroom. So I guess I did make one before. He looks a little more monkey-like because his head's longer. And I think he's all longer. I must have been doing yarn management on this one, but I do not remember it at all. I cannot remember. But my daughter did. Oh, I didn't make a mouth on you. Although where it's joined kind of looks like a mouth. Do you need color? Nah, you're done. So there, now I have a pair of monkeys. The last finished object is 2 more flowers. It's a joint project with myself and my daughter. I knit and assemble them, and then she wraps the stems. This is a pattern by Jordan Schultz of Double In Knits. And oh, did I tell you that the Love Note sweater pattern is by Tin Can Knits? I always want to give credit where credit is due. So this is fingering weight yarn as the pattern calls for. Compared to the DK weights I showed you last week, both sizes worked out lovely. But you might notice that I tend to have a habit of experimenting with when it comes to yarn choices. So these are ready to send off now, and I've chosen another yarn to make more with. This colorway is another one of the rock and roll themed yarns from December's mystery box by Ginger Snap That here in Calgary. This one was Day 9, inspired by Satisfaction of the Rolling Stones. So I think that will make some lovely flowers. No rush to make more, but I will cake this up, put it in my box, and my box will live under the coffee table in the front room for times when I'm sitting there and need to keep my hands busy. But yeah, no rush for it, but it's still a work in progress. So yeah, I am quite pleased with these two. Moving on to works in progress. My second sample of my Over the Rockies shawl is almost finished. I just need to do 5 more rows and the I-cord bind off. And you can't tell how big it is all bunched up on these needles. By the way, these needles are so old. I'm sure they're my original needles that I used to make this blanket that's on the bed back when I was a teenager. This metal, solid fixed needles. I'm sure they were from Kmart or Sellers. Anyway, metal's my favorite kind of needles. Anyway, this is the second sample I've made of this pattern that's going to be released at the end of April. And the first sample, I'll put a picture back up here again. I've talked about it before. It's inspired by the view from the airplane when you're flying over the Rocky Mountains. And so it's done on a 5mm needle, so it's a loose drape. The yarn in the first sample was Lion Brand Ice Cream, a DK weight. And this one is the Loops and Threads brand from Michael's, a merino acrylic blend. And it has been suggested by a friend that you could make it in different colors depending on what landscape you want to depict. Like if you're flying over a lush green area, it would be green in the sky. Or if you're flying over a desert, use brown in the sky. Wait. I did the second version so that I could re-familiarize myself with the pattern in case there were any questions from the test knitters, but I haven't gotten any. So it looks like the pattern will be available at the end of April for you. And I'll link to my design shop, my Ravelry and Etsy stores in the description box down below. But as I said, this one's not available yet. I'm getting excited though. So I hope to finish this off in the next day because I'm not taking it on my trip with me. My husband and I are going to Hawaii for 2 weeks. We leave on Saturday. So I'm planning my week around what yarn projects I'm taking with me. So this one is heavy and warm, so I don't want to take it to Hawaii with me. But I want to finish it and photograph it, wet block it, photograph it, have some photos ready for you for the pattern release date. So that's my focus for the next day or two. 5 rows and an I-cord bind off left to do. The pattern I do want to take with me on the trip is the half and half triangle wrap, which I'll fetch. This is the half and half triangle wrap pattern by Pearl Soho. I haven't made much progress since the last time we had an episode, so I won't go on and on about it. I've been working on this since November, and I'm using Holst Coast yarn from Denmark. And I've got too much more to go. And for the first week of our trip, my husband is doing triathlon training and I'll be spending hours in the support vehicle. So I think a couple of days and this will be ready to wear. It's so light. There, folds into a triangle. These are the colors lavender and jade. So that's coming with me. I need to think about what project bags I'm taking with each project. So my purse projects got some progress in the last 2 weeks. And by purse projects, I mean something small enough to tuck into the purse to pull out when I'm getting antsy somewhere, such as waiting for dinner to arrive in a restaurant, or during intermission at the musical, or at the hockey game. So we went to the Broadway Across Canada production of Pretty Woman on Friday night, and it was really good. And during intermission, I worked some more on this. I didn't do any during the performance, though, because I haven't gotten into In the Dark knitting yet, and I think my metal knitting needles would make a scraping noise that nobody wants to hear it in a musical, in any performance. But anyway, I marked where the point where I had 10 inches left to do, so that I didn't have to keep checking my measurements. I worked on it during the musical, and I finished it during the hockey game last night. So this I've talked about before. It's for a design I'm working on. This is the side edge of a stadium sit-upon. I cleaned up my room so it's not there anymore. I had to make space in case my daughter was spending the night this weekend, but in the end she didn't. But anyway, so I can't show you, but I have a football one finished, a hockey one ready to assemble. I have the materials ready now to take with me to Hawaii to start on the soccer ball version. So I just need to weigh my yarns and make some notes about yardage, and then pack those. Yeah, I'm going to make the soccer ball version in the Team Canada colors, and the white and black for the soccer ball and Tarsha in the center of it. And then I'm going to look for Toronto Blue Jays colors to do my baseball version. And I don't know what colors I'm going to do a basketball team in yet. We'll see. I haven't watched basketball much. When I do go to a sports game, I'm not all that into statistics or whatnot. I just go and enjoy the game that I'm at. That's just the hockey game. But it turns out last night was the Calgary Flames' last chance to qualify for the playoffs, and they missed it. It was a tied game in regular play, but then they lost in a shootout in overtime. And Winnipeg, the next slowest team on the Western Conference roster, won their game. So now they're in the playoffs and Calgary is out. But there's still another game tomorrow night. A couple more while we're away, I think. My husband shares the season tickets with another friend of his. So I go along with them on the nights that he has the tickets if I don't have a meeting, a congregation meeting at the same time. I enjoy it, but a couple of days later I couldn't tell you who they played. Who did they play last night? Nashville. Who did they play tomorrow night? I looked it up just a little while ago. San Jose. But yeah, it was a pretty intense game, so I managed to finish this piece, and I did a little bit on my sock. The sock, I've marked where I've got 5 inches left. So I've been carrying around this 5-inch long ruler with my purse projects as well. So I was able to tell when I had that last 10 inches done. So now it's going back into the purse with this project, and it will probably get finished at the hockey game tomorrow night. I find I knit faster this way in the knit 1, purl 1, knit 2, purl 2 in the round than I do in a knit 1, purl 1. Probably because, it might also be because this is flat. I had to pay attention at the edges to make sure my stitches were snug enough. My selvage edge was neat. And it's black. That might have slowed me down. But I do think the motion of doing knit 2, purl 2 works much faster than the motion of doing knit 1, purl 1. Anyway, I'm sure this will be finished tomorrow night. So it's going back in my purse. Now for the WIP count update. Last episode I had 10 UFOs. The monkey is now finished. The love note sweater is finished. I did some flowers, but I still plan on making more flowers, so that's still a WIP. So the count is now 9 works in progress. But I need to cast on a new project for the plane. So I bought new yarn for it. So let me tell you about the yarn first, and then I'll tell you about the project. Again, this is from Ancient Arts Yarns here in Calgary. The thing about going to their social group every week is I keep seeing the yarns. This is Nettle Soft, DK, and Little Nettle Soft. DK and fingering, Little Nettle. So the Little Nettle is for later. They're both a 68% superwash merino and 32% nettle. And nettle is a plant fiber. And I'm told it has moisture wicking, temperature regulating properties. So what I want to do with these is the fingering weight one. I'm going to design a runner's buff for my husband. So that's the project for late summer to get ready for fall. Something I struggle with in designing is the timing of the seasons and my projects. If there's any other designers watching, do you have any suggestions, any advice on that? When do I need to get this started? But first, with the DK, I'm going to make myself a summer shirt. So I bought a shirt quality. I've got one hank wound into a cake. I've done a gauge swatch. I've washed and blocked it, and it performed wonderfully. Nice drape, nice texture. So, and I'm at gauge. I've been pretty lucky lately at meeting gauge on my first try. But doesn't always happen, so I always, now, in the last few years, I always do a gauge watch. So this is going to be a full-length version of the crop top that I designed for my daughter last summer. So this is her crop top. And this design came about, has not been published yet. It's coming soon. Last summer, a friend of mine asked for some help in adding afterthought sleeves to my rope swing tank top design. So as I was looking at my rope swing tank top and trying to think this through, adding sleeves after the fact, my daughter said, well, you could make a crop top for me to practice those sleeves. So we did this. She picked out the yarns from my stash. This is Kobu, Lion Brand Kobu, of which I have too much of. Actually, it's the True Boo that I have too much of. Anyway, she picked the colors, so I made it. It goes from the waistband up, and then afterwards the stitches are picked up around the sleeves, worked back and forth in short rows for the shoulder shaping, and then finished off with my favorite stitch, the sea foam wave stitch. So I've done the math also for a full-length version. So now I'm making the one for myself to double check my yardage counts. The pattern is all written, ready to go to the technical editor as soon as I master drawing the schematics for it. I've not done schematics for most of my previous patterns because they were simple one-piece top-down yoke. I hadn't done schematics. But for this one, it's because it's going to be no ease to it. I need schematics. You need to know all the measurements. So I'm working on that. One thing that's slowing me down with my pattern writing lately is because I'm taking the Professional Knitwear Designer Certification course with the Knitting Guild of America, TKGA. And this course, it's much like their Master Hand Knitting program, if you're familiar with that, in that they tell you what you should know, but you need to do the research and teach yourself. And, well, for example, I know what numbers I need on the schematic, but I have to teach myself how to do it. And I can do hand-drawn ones, and I did do that for 1 or 2 patterns in the past, but I'm trying to learn how to do it digitally. And the only digital electronic appliance that I have is my iPad and my phone. So a lot of patterns or a lot of programs are a little more difficult to do on the iPad. I have transferred my patterns from Apple Pages and Numbers over to Google Docs and Sheets, because those ones more easily convert to Microsoft and Excel than Apple does, and they're more easily shared with the technical editors, so she can make changes right there and send them back. So that's not been a problem, but the Google Drawing app on the iPad is driving me crazy. I'd love to do Inkscape, but you can't use that one on the iPad. I don't know it either. It would be a learning curve too, but the thing with doing the Google drawings on the iPad is it's touchscreen, and I can't see through my finger while I'm drawing. Maybe my next gift to myself should be an Apple Pencil. But anyway, then I'd have to learn how to use the Apple Pencil. So everything is a learning curve, always. Yeah, what else do I have to say about this? When the pattern is released, which, like I said, my timing is maybe not quite right. I need to get it to the technical editor. I need to get test knitters very quickly. And then maybe we can have the pattern published by July. So that's that. So I've already caked one skein. I'm debating whether to cake up the other hanks or to pack them flat. I know they would take up less room flat than hanked. Maybe. It was a little squishy. I'll probably cake them all because hand winding them while I'm away doesn't appeal to me right now. So those will get packed. They'll get started for the airplane. Hopefully, if I have time, I will cast on and knit the first 2 rounds. And then from that point forward, the ribbing, knit 1, purl 1, I can do without looking once it's set up and not twisted. So I think I'll get those cast on before we leave on the plane. That's the project for the plane. Now, in other yarn acquisitions, as you may know, at Ancient Arts Yarns, they have a monthly subscription, and I've been getting it since January. And I've just been notified that my April yarn is ready. They get introduced to the public on like the first of the month, but for the monthly subscriptions, we get them the second week of the month. So I'm going to go pick that up from the store right now and then come back and finish recording. Okay, I'm back with the yarn, and the package has arrived. Pretty heavy one. I know exactly what it is, so I'm going to share that with you. But first, the yarn. So let me read you what I screenshot from Instagram when it came out April 1st. It's April 1st tomorrow, and that means I can let the cat out of the bag, as it were, and share our next color of the month with you. For April's color of the month, Moctezuma's headdress, Moctezuma, Moctezuma's headdress. We travel all the way from ancient Greece, where last month was, to the ancient Mesoamerican city of Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan, the site of the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. Teotihuacan was once the largest city in the Americas, and the pyramid was built around 200 CE and was abandoned about 750 CE. Centuries later, when the Aztecs visited the site, they named it the Pyramid of the Sun, likely because it is situated so that it aligns along the perpendicular with sunrise and sunset on specific days. You know what's funny? My husband and I just recently watched was it Netflix? A series on, it was called Ancient Apocalypse, and they were talking about different pyramids and their alignments with the suns or with certain stars and stuff. It was really interesting. Anyway, back to the script. One of the most well-known artifacts from the Aztec era is Moctezuma's headdress, also known as the Pinaco of Moctezuma II. a stunning creation of exotic bird feathers and gold. And I'll put the picture up for you. The headdress is first mentioned in 1596 when it was acquired by Austrian Archduke Ferdinand II von Tyrol. It was likely that it was sent to him by Hernan Cortes. It is unknown if the headdress actually belonged to Moctezuma II, but by modern times it had become closely associated with Moctezuma and the Mexican indigenous identity. The headdress is part of a collection in the Ethnology Museum in Vienna called the Welsh Museum Wien. Despite continuous requests from Mexican representatives and activists for the return of the headdress, the Austrian authorities have refused on the grounds that the headdress is too valuable and too fragile to risk transporting it across the Atlantic. Our colorway is inspired by the photos we have included of the 1940 reproduction of the headdress, which is in Mexico City. Reproduction, okay. Photo credit Dr. Stephen Sucker and Oi Clamor Getty Images. Colors are available on Socknado, Passion 8, and as Socknado mini skeins. And there's an extra color this month, and that's the limited edition colorway Jaguar God. One of the amazing dyers is from Mexico, and she felt we couldn't have the headdress without a god closely associated with the Aztecs, so we dyed up this colorway based on the images of Aztec hieroglyphics. I missed that part when I read this beginning of April, so I don't have that yarn. But this one, I had it dyed on a Socknado base. I get my monthlies on Socknado. It's an 80-20 fingering sock yarn. And that's very pretty. And as promised, the pictures of the headdress itself and the replica. Okay, let's open this box. And if this gets too noisy, I'll cut it out. Or if it takes me too long. Okay, this box I ordered from a Vogue Knitting website when they had 50% off all their books. 50% off is a really good deal. I ordered 6 books, but then the shipping came to $65. So before I hit purchase, I checked on Amazon's website all the book titles and what their prices were on Amazon. And even with Amazon Prime's free shipping, it was cheaper to go with this, even with the $65 shipping charge. So I ordered the 6 books. And did I rip this one while I was opening it? Oh dear. Yeah, I probably did. Okay. Knitting Ephemera, a compendium of articles, useful and otherwise, for the edification and amusement of the hand knitter. So, a storybook. Looks like there might be a couple patterns. Nettle terms, a selection of artwork featuring fiber artists. Clothing was made without pockets. What? Charles Dickens, something blah blah blah. That might be an interesting storybook. And my invoice. And just the first thing that was on my had to get interest. Vogue Knitting's colorwork paper. So it's done in knitting stitches so you can graph out your intarsia designs. At the moment, I graph my intarsia designs on Apple Numbers, a spreadsheet program, or I've had to adjust the size of the squares and made myself a template because a knitting square is, I can't remember the dimensions now, I think it's 2 by 3. Anyway, but this is done perfectly for crafting, for charting, for drawing. I think definitely I would draw in pencil first and then color them in. Sounds fun. And then this book I've been eyeing for a while because my oldest daughter loves penguins. Nikki Epstein, Knit a Square, Create a Cuddly Creature. So each item is knit as a square and then fold it and sewing into shapes. Where is that penguin one? Anyway, there's a turtle. I should show you guys as I'm flipping it. There's the penguin I saw. Oh, that's going to be neat. Yeah, I look forward to playing with that. And what else did I order? Kristen Nichols, Color by Kristen, How to Design Your Own Beautiful Knits. I don't remember the purpose of this. It's got a bunch of patterns in it. It's got some ready-made charts. I think it's falling out of its sleeve. Yeah, a whole bunch of ready-made charts. Must have been a good price. And then a couple more Vogue Knitting Stitch Dictionaries. Vogue Knitting, the Ultimate Stitch Dictionary from the editors of Vogue Knitting Magazine, Volume 1, Knit and Purl. So these would all be textured sequences. And edgings. Cool. And volume 2, cables. Looks like some useful ones in there. Some I've seen before. I do have the huge Vogue Knitting Stitch Dictionary. Cool. Okay, let me clean this up and then check back with my script as to what else I wanted to talk to you about. Something else I wanted to mention is that I'm going to throw this into my luggage so that I have another project for the plane ride back home. I scanned it up. It was on this cardboard tube. It was left over from a t-shirt that I made years ago from a Mary Maxime pattern. It is Pattern Silk Bamboo. And, pardon me, I think it will make a lovely Sophie scarf. So I weighed the cake. I have 39 grams here. I better go check the pattern again, but I think that's enough. Although I wonder, how will I know when I reach the middle of the ball and have to start decreasing again? If you're familiar with the Sophie scarf pattern, I think it's by Pearl Soho. I'll look that up. You start with a little tiny tail and you increase until you've used half your yarn, or the instructions might say a certain length or a certain number of rows. I'll check that. And then you decrease for the other half of the scarf. So I think that will be lovely. I say lovely a lot, don't I? And I wanted to show you what I'm going to use for a yarn cozy for this. I'm going to put the skein in this, whoops, which I found in my daughter's things that she was getting rid of. And it's actually goth costume fingerless club, but I think is going to be just perfect for a yarn cozy. Haha. Now I just need to figure out what project bags I'm going to put each project in, get them ready and packed. Which things do I need to weigh my yarn first so that I've got proper notes for the yardage things, yardage calculations. And then our next episode is scheduled for while I'm in Hawaii. I'm going to try to record for you. I'm going to try to record in bits and pieces throughout our trip. If I get up the nerve to record in public, I'll do some what I'm wearing today clips because I'm taking a bit of knitwear with me. I'll do some where I'm knitting now quick clips, some what we're doing today clips, and show you the progress as I go on my WIPs that I take with me. And should be able to have that up for you in 2 weeks. Now, in the meantime, happy knitting, happy jigsaw puzzling, crocheting, model making, whatever it is that you do, go find some joy.